Hi, I'm James from TechDev, and today we're going to be talking about the actual step-by-step process of setting up a network-attached storage system for small business use. Now, if you're setting up a network-attached storage system for something else, this will work. This is just the step-by-steps as to how to set it up. So if you're just trying to set up a NAS, you came to the right place as well. First step is to install the operating system of choice onto the hardware. If you already have Windows installed on your PC, then you can skip this step and go to step 2. If you'd like Unraid or TrueNAS or something like that, usually what they do is you download it onto a USB. You plug that USB into your system. And then when your computer is booting up, you can tap either the F1, the escape key, or the F2 key, something like that. You can look it up to access the boot menu, and that will tell you. And then once you're in the boot menu, you select that USB, and the USB will boot, and it will lead you through a series of steps to install that operating system on your hardware. So for this purpose, there are a few operating systems. There's Unraid, there's TrueNAS, there's FreeNAS, there is OpenMediaVault, and OpenFiler. There's a ton of options for this. Just because it's not listed doesn't mean it's not a good option. Just pick the one that's right for you. Take your time reading the documentation. Look up a video of somebody using the interface to make sure you don't hate it, and just jump in. If you don't like it, you can always pick a different one. Next step, once you've installed the operating system, is to get it connected to your network. So what you're going to want to do is take a cat cable like the one shown, and you're going to plug one end into your desktop or your what is now a NAS, because now it's no longer a desktop, it's now a hardware specific NAS. And so what you're going to do is plug in the Ethernet into the Ethernet port on the back of that system, and then you're going to plug the other end of that Ethernet port either into your router or into a switch. The next step is configuring your server. This is the most complicated step. If you're not super technically skilled, just use the recommended settings. This is important, though, that you take the time to understand what you're doing, because changing these settings later, depending on what they are, might be a little difficult. Just because you're going to create profiles, you're going to create systems, you're going to decide who has access to what. Typically, you just want to create an open network where anybody can throw a file in and anybody can pull the file out. You can create personal shared drives for each person where they have their drive and nobody else can see it or access it. My opinion on that matter is that's what the hard drive on your computer is for. And if you want to share something, you put it on the network attached storage. And if you don't, you don't. That's my opinion on the matter. You can always get an external hard drive for your computer if you want to have a more private place to hide your stuff. The network attached storage, I think, should just be a public repository. You can also create certain settings depending on how special the people are that you're dealing with. You can set it so that anybody can write to the network attached storage, and that people can maybe only delete their own files in case you have somebody who might go on the storage system and delete everybody's stuff. It happens, and a lot of the times, somebody might do it, and then you might not be able to figure out who it is, and without doing some digging. So that might be something you do, is just controlling who is able to delete everything. Whereas everybody can write and add files, maybe people can only delete their own files. That's something I might recommend. You can also make some settings now to show whether or not you just want the storage system to be accessed locally, whether or not you want to be able to access it over the internet, able to access it from your phone while you're at home or using your laptop while you're at home. I recommend starting with very open settings. I know it's tempting to turn the security up to maximum just because you can. I mean, other than obviously putting a password on it when you're able to do remote access so that not anybody who happens to have your IP address can just get into it and change stuff. But setting it up so that you're able to access it remotely with a username and password is probably a good idea too. The next step is to add storage to the device. This is the reason why we got the device, is to add storage. What I would recommend is going on an electronic supply site and looking at the storage options available and seeing how many drive slots you have available. If you have plenty of drive slots, and you look at how much it is to add more, you can do some simple math and decide, okay, I need this much storage. And I have plenty of drive slots. So let me just search for hard drives and find the ones that have the cheapest per gigabit cost. Typically it'll be, maybe 1 terabyte or more. I'm not really super familiar with, the cost of terabytes of data storage. It changes so quickly. But typically there's an upper limit. Usually around 5 or 10 terabyte drives tend to be very expensive, whereas 250 gigabyte drives tend to also be very expensive when you're considering the per terabyte cost. And so that's what you want to look at, is the per terabyte cost when selecting drives. With this done, you'll be able to finalize your settings. Keep in mind that you'll always be able to go back and change these. Specifically, the storage is something that you'll always be able to upgrade and change. So make sure that you're forward thinking. One thing that I've seen people do that I think is a mistake is they'll go for the lowest cost per terabyte drives, which I know I just told you to do, but they won't realize that they're going to run out of drive slots and that they're either going to buy a whole new network attached storage, or they're going to have to start removing the hard drives that they just bought and replacing them with higher capacity ones because they ran out of slots and there's no other way to raise the capacity.